Hello, people. It is your big Aniki Chad Marco here again. Super Chad Marco, I should say. I'm feeling great today. How are you guys doing? So we have another video for you awesome people. Before I get started, hit the like button and let's have some fun. so there's been this picture, this meme picture that's been making the rounds online, especially on 4chan lately. And man, like this picture, all right, let me describe it in case anyone who hasn't seen it, because I kind of have to censor it because it's a little explicit. But it's basically a picture of a woman on all fours on the couch getting fucked by a man. And there's a line of men who are ass naked waiting to fuck her. And then there's a guy in a suit with, he has a thing of flowers in his hands. And so what the picture is basically describing is the phenomenon of a man having to wait, sort of not literally in line, but you know, as you're, before you get the chance to wife up your woman or marry her or make her your girlfriend, there's a line of men who have already had sex with her. You know, it's a very simple concept, right? Like kind of like beta bucks, alpha fucks. It's kind of like a visual representation of that. And you know, this picture is just, it's so triggering because I've never seen a better visual representation of that particular, I don't know if I call it a issue, but more so the reality of dating. You know, one thing I've always said is that one of the things that like kind of deters me from trying to date is that whenever I see a girl that I like, I already know that she has like 10, 15 dudes that she's already talking to and kind of weighing them against each other. Like it's a competitive thing. And I think in a way that picture, it kind of encompasses a big part of what makes dating a struggle nowadays for men. You know, the high level of competition and the fact that if you're a more conservative minded guy, and I'm not even saying like on a religious level, like it's levels to this shit, but if you're a more conservative minded guy, you're gonna care about things like your girl being a hoe or being considered a hoe and having a high body count. But you know, this picture, man, it could be a whole podcast. But I'm gonna try to just talk briefly about why men care about body count. Like that's pretty much the whole point of this video, because now that picture has been going around and there's been different versions of it. Like people have extended, like the original picture was just about like 4 or 5 men and then the guy in the suit. Now they have pictures where it's an endless line of men. There's one alternate version where the guy in the suit with the flowers is like shorter than all the other guys. There's a version where there's a horse and a xenomorph in the line. It's gotten pretty crazy. And the thing is, you know, it's an effective picture because it has sparked so many conversations on, like, somebody on R9K right now just keeps posting that picture and like every thread like gets at least a couple dozen, if not up to 100 replies. And the last one I saw got like over like 300 replies. So there's a lot of talk about body count and shit like that. But let's get into the whole, you know, body count thing. Why do men care about body count, right? So I think one of the first reasons is I believe that human beings have disgust response, but it's like, it seems like it's not socially accepted to admit and acknowledge that disgust response is present when we're talking about like sex, right? And especially in regards to women having sex with men. And when I say human innate disgust response, because a lot of times you'll see people make this example. They'll say, would you drink after somebody who had their lips on a soda can? Wouldn't you feel bad about using somebody else's toothbrush? Because a lot of times what what guys on the internet, they'll say, and sometimes they say this jokingly, but they'll talk about how, oh, you know, the girl has been nutted on and peed on and licked ass. And then the other side of the argument, they'll say, hey, she can just take a bath and all that. But then the thing is like, just for example, if I use a toothbrush, right? And then you come over my house and you don't have a toothbrush, and I say, oh, use mine. You're not gonna use my toothbrush. It don't matter how much I scrub and clean, you're not gonna use my toothbrush. And so some people might say that, you know, it's irrational, but that's what I'm saying. I think humans just have an innate disgust response to other people's germs and bodily fluids and things of that nature. It's just like when I watch gangbang porn, it's entertaining, but like, I'm always disgusted by the idea of like, oh, like, I don't want to be the guy who's sucking the breast after somebody else sucked the titty, right? Like, it's all the fluids and the juices just. And so, obviously, what people tend to say with that argument is that, you know, oh, she's a human being, she's not a toothbrush. And look, I'm not trying to devalue women to fucking objects. I'm just trying to express how we as human beings feel about having to interact with other people's germs and bodily fluids. We tend to have a disgust response to these things, you know? And I think that you could say, like, if I say I don't want to use somebody's toothbrush, regardless of how much it's been cleaned, people understand that. But if I say I don't want to eat out a pussy that just got nutted in or it's been nutted in, doesn't, like, now that, oh, the vagina self cleans and and look, I'm not trying to like justify or say that's the right way to think. I'm just saying, I think this is just human nature, and people try to brush it to the side when the issue is a woman's body count. Now all of a sudden, like, it's the same thing when you look at people and going to the bathroom, right? People make a big deal about washing your hands after going to the bathroom, even though all you did was kind of touch your balls a little. Like, you might have touched your balls and then just the pee, and then people make a big deal about that's what I'm saying. Like, that's just, I think it's in our nature not to want to interact with other people's juices and shit. And I think that when you look at a girl who has been having sex with other men, I think it brings out that innate disgust response that we have. Maybe some people have it more than others, but it is what it is. So I think another reason why men tend to care about body count is that it's about presentation. So I was watching one of Richard Cooper's videos, and he was talking about why he doesn't, or rather why he thinks women having tattoos is a red flag. And he talked about how like, if you're hanging out with like rich men and you're on double dates with your wives, you know, your wife having tattoos and piercing and shit is kind of gonna make you look bad, because, you know, your woman is representing you when she's out in the world, just like how you represent her. And I think that the perception of a woman being promiscuous or a hoe is kind of, I think it harms how your mate, how your wife or girlfriend represents you out in the world. It's kind of like, if you look at politicians, for example, like with politicians, how they're presented, how they present themselves to the world is everything. Like, they're the biggest example of the importance of presentation. And you pretty much never see successful politicians who have wives who can be proven to be whores or promiscuous, or they had an OnlyFans. Like maybe going into the future they'll change, but right now you don't see that, because politicians, just because of the nature of their careers, presentation is everything. Now, it's less important for common folk, but I think it still matters. When guys say things like, you know, you don't turn a hoe into a housewife. Again, your wife represents you. And, you know, just look at iDubbbz, for example. A lot of people gave him shit because his girl, who is his wife now, I believe, had an OnlyFans. And look, if he don't give a fuck, that's cool. But the simple fact is, the fact that he chose to date and marry an OnlyFans model, that hurts his presentation to the world. You know, I'm not gonna say like certain doors have closed for him because of this, but you never know. And obviously on a social level, it's caused him to receive backlash and negativity and having to deal with the opinions of other people who think that, you know, he's a cuck, he's a simp, and all that. I remember everybody was calling him a simp. I made a whole podcast, Simper Pimp, all that shit, you know? And so a lot of guys just don't want to deal with that because, and look, just talking about presentation, right? One thing that I always think of is like your girl or your wife, just imagine this, and she's walking through the grocery store with your kids, and then she runs into the guy that like just, I mean, demolished her, just drilled her down, had her eating his asshole and all that. That's the type of shit that I'm talking about when I say presentation. Or look at, you know, Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. A lot of people were like, you know, how are the kids gonna deal with realizing that their mom has a sex tape out there? Are people gonna be harassing the kids and sending, you know? And that's what I'm saying. And it's not even just about how the man feel about it. It trickles down to the children. You know, and that's why a lot of people feel like, they wouldn't want to date a porn star, you know, because not only do they have high body counts, there's video evidence of everything that they've done. And they feel like it would kind of harm the image of their family and could affect their kids. So another aspect of it is insecurity. So some guys might get mad at me for saying this because oftentimes what happens is guys get accused of being insecure when we talk about not wanting to date hoes or wanting to date virgins and being concerned about a woman's body count. And I'm just like, let's be real, bro. Like we are human beings. Men are not infallible, perfect creatures. We deal with insecurities and shit just like women do. I think my issue with how women try to accuse guys of being insecure is that they make that accusation acting like they don't deal with the same issues. You know, it's kind of like recently I found out that you know, Derek Jackson is a he's a successful black man dating coach, whatever. And he kind of got into hot water because he was cheating on his wife. And his wife recently came out and was talking about dealing with the infidelity. And she was basically saying that she was jealous of the type of girls that he would cheat on her with. And so, you know, she was trying to imitate what they would do to try to please him. And so the point is that, you know, that's an example of a woman dealing with insecurity in a relationship where the man has a high body count and is promiscuous. And so what upsets me when women throw that out is they act like it's just us. Yes, look, men, we get insecure. Like, you look at how concerned we are about our penis size and worrying about, you know, how big was your ex and what did y'all do? Men, we do, look, insecurity oftentimes can be a part of it, you know. But I think that at the same time, that particular accusation, the reason why it bothers me is just that women act like they don't have it too. It's just like the who hurt you thing, right? Yeah, some guys get hurt in relationships and it causes them to change how they deal with women. But the same shit happens to women. It's not something that's just necessarily unique to us, I think. But I'm saying, let's just be real. As men, insecurity can be a factor when it comes to our concern with female body count. Okay, so another issue is, of course, STDs. Now, this is an obvious one. You know, the more sexually active you are, the more likely it is that you're going to be exposing yourself to STDs. And let's be real. A lot of people are not about getting tested regularly. You know, I've made threads kind of trying to get the perspective of normal sex having people and trying to figure out, like, how do you guys deal with STDs? Because when I look at hookup culture and things like that, it's obvious that people just kind of like, people tell these stories of hooking up and running game and getting with girls and, oh, I finally got a girlfriend, but I don't ever hear the part where it's like, oh, we got tested for STDs. And then, you know, people will say, oh, well, just wear a condom. Condoms do not protect against all STDs. And at some point, guys are gonna want to hit raw. So I'm just like, at what point are people getting tested? But point is, we live in a culture where most people are not getting regularly tested for STDs. And if you're dealing with a girl who has a high body count, who has been with a lot of men, is the likelihood of her having an STD, and even if it can be something minor, but it goes up and up and up. Because you got to think, if you have sex with one person who has had sex with 10 people, who between that 10 have had sex with 100 people. Like, look at how quickly you're connected to hundreds to thousands of people just by having sex with 2 or 3 people, right? And so that's why STDs can be very prevalent, you know? And so that's an obvious concern, but it is something that you can deal with by simply being responsible and getting tested before you have sex with someone. I know that's boring, but I can't really see any other way of dealing with it properly. So this is one that I think, this is one that like my personal, because I don't really see guys talking about it from this angle, but this is really one of the big reasons why me personally, why I don't like girls. Well, I can say I don't like, but why I wouldn't want to make a girl with a high body count my girlfriend. And I think for me, it comes down to their attitude when it comes to sex. Because obviously I'm a 30-year-old virgin, and it's not for, obviously not for religious reasons or anything like that. And I think as I've gotten older, I think my views on sex have kind of, I don't want to say that I've become like conservative minded in terms of it. 'Cause I think conservative is kind of a you know, that's a word that can mean a lot nowadays. But I think I'm more like careful in that, like, when I look at how I was in my early 20s and shit like that, there was no way I was mature and responsible enough to be sexually active. I think that sex is something that's obviously done recreationally and for fun, and that's cool. But it's an activity that comes with a lot of shit. It can come with a lot of shit in terms of like things that can go wrong, the risk and addiction, and you know, it's not a toy to be played with. You gotta approach it seriously. And I think when I look at promiscuous women with a lot of body counts, what really turns me off about it or makes me suspicious of them is that it makes me think that they're reckless with their own bodies. Because I know, like, it's kind of like the whole thing going back to STDs. You know, I know if you are a woman with a high body count, it's no way you did the proper, responsible thing and got tested with every guy you hooked up with or every guy you were in a relationship with. There's no way. At some point you gambled with your health and probably let a guy hit raw, and you could have got HIV or some shit like that. And I think, like, to me, that level of recklessness when it comes to your body is just unattractive to me. And also, another thing too is that, you know, you're sharing your body in the most intimate way with in the most intimate way possible with other people. And so it's not just about potentially catching STDs. It's like, what type of men are you having sex with? If you're just all over the place, like, are you having sex with thugs and gangbangers and drug dealers and perverts and shit? Like, who are you fucking? You know, and I think just having sex with people based off of like, oh, he's tall or he's got a big dick or he just make my pussy wet. I think, like, to me, that's unattractive. Because when I look at myself, you know, I've always said I want a girl that's attractive, but I also want a girl that's a good person. And I just question people who are promiscuous. Like, do they actually concern themselves with the character of the people they have sex with? Because it's kind of like, and maybe I feel this way because, you know, in the black community, one of the big issues is that a lot of women like thugs and gangbangers and shit. And I find that absolutely detestable behavior, to be honest. And it's like, just knowing that I'm wifing up a girl who has been fucked by, like, it'd be one thing if he was just like a normal dude who had a job and shit, but just knowing like she's been ran through by gangbangers and shit, like, you don't give a fuck about the character of the people you have. Like, you just, you know, like, to me, one of the most unattractive things about women with high body counts, it just comes down to their whole attitude regarding sex, the attitude of recklessness regarding their body, and the lack of concern about the character of the men they have sex with. Because if you get pregnant by one of these, you know, degenerate criminal type niggas that you like to fuck, then now that the issues that come with that are gonna trickle down to the kids, and you're gonna be in a fucked up situation. And so that's really what I find most unattractive about it. And, you know, maybe I'll go more in depth with this next one later, because we're kind of the time constraints here. But there have actually been studies that have shown that, and you know, you can find a study to support any fucking opinion. So let's take it with a grain of salt. I spent like literally 3 minutes looking. Right, I typed in virgins and marriage and just clicked on the first article. I was like, okay, well, here we go. So I'm not saying this as biblical fucking law, but what made me think of it was that I've heard other people say it, but I never fact checked it. And I finally fact checked it real quick, and I was like, okay, well, there is at least one study that says this. And what the study says is that people who are virgins or have lower body counts tend to have more successful marriages. And of course, when you're talking about this particular phenomenon, there are variables like religious beliefs and things like that you kind of got to take into account. But just on the most basic, quick 20-minute video level, that's what it was saying, is that people with virgins and in particular with women, it was a bigger deal. With women, it was a bigger deal for them to be virgins or having low body counts, and the connection to long-term marital sex. With men, it wasn't as much of a factor. It was a factor, but more so for women. And, you know, I think that, and this is just me just going off of the dome, just like first thoughts, first theories on this. But I assume that part of it, why women with low body counts or who are virgins probably have more success in marriage, is that maybe because of their limited experience with other men, they're able to be satisfied more with one man because they're not weighing him against 5, 10, 15, you know, different guys. And I think, like, some people say that continuous and like having too many sexual encounters can kind of like desensitize you to it, so that you kind of like a drug where you need more and more and more. So, you know, if you've been with 20 or 30 guys, you could say it could be harder for somebody like that to be satisfied with one man versus a woman who's a virgin or has a low body count. You know, her pair bonding ability probably isn't as burnt out. And you know, real quick before I end this video, I was just thinking about my friend, and one of his girlfriends was a virgin when they met, or, you know, so she claimed. That there was always kind of doubts there, but, you know, she claimed to be a virgin. That goes a long way, right? And I remember what he said to me one time was that he believed that because he took her virginity. I'm putting that in quote. He told me that he had like this greater sense of ownership over her. Like it definitely, her being a virgin and him believing that he took her virginity was definitely a factor in their relationship and his attachment to her. And the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of guys say, oh, it doesn't matter, or, you know, you guys worry about it too much. And you know, this is more so when we're talking about like the argument between like a virgin woman and a woman with like a reasonable low body count. But I'll say this. I think that even the guys who try to downplay the value of a woman's virginity, I guarantee you, if they could choose between a girl that was a virgin versus a girl who had not even a high body count, let's say like 3 boyfriends and 3 hookups, right? That's low level, right? By 25 or something like that. I guarantee you, most guys would pick the virgin. Most guys would pick, because there's something special about a woman being a virgin. And I think people just have to understand that the same way women tend to be more attracted to men who other women like, and men who have like sexual experience, I think that men tend to be more attracted. Maybe like they don't have to be a virgin. That's a plus. But I think generally speaking, men are more attracted and into women that have low body counts. And that's why we're concerned with it. But definitely, I think given the choice, I think most men would pick all things being equal, other than that, I think most men would pick the virgin over the girl who has even a low body count. But that was the video. It's getting too long now. So I will see you guys later. See ya.